I always prided myself on being a trusting girlfriend. Maybe that was my mistake. Maybe I should have seen the signs sooner, but love makes you blind, right? Adam and I had been together for 3 years. We shared a cozy little apartment in the city, the kind with creaky floors and a window that overlooked a coffee shop where we had our first date. I thought our life was good, comfortable, predictable, happy. At least that's what I let myself believe. Then I found the second phone. It started with small things, the kind you can explain away if you really want to. Late-night work meetings that never used to exist. Texts he'd angle his phone away from me to read. A sudden, intense need to go to the gym at 10 p.m., even though he had never cared about working out before. But the real moment, the one that cracked my trust wide open, happened on a random Tuesday morning. Adam had left his laptop open on the kitchen counter while he showered. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't snooping. But a message popped up in the corner of his screen, and I saw it before I could look away. "Are you alone? I miss you." My stomach dropped. My hands started shaking. I clicked on the message, but it disappeared instantly, like it had never existed. My pulse hammered in my ears. I tried searching his texts, his emails, anything. But there was nothing. It was like the message had been erased the second it was sent. That's when I saw it, tucked behind a few books on our shelf, a cheap old flip phone. My fingers felt numb as I reached for it. The screen was cracked, but when I turned it on, I nearly dropped it. The messages weren't just casual texts, they were intimate. "I love waking up next to you. I hate sneaking around, but it'll be worth it soon. I can't wait to finally be free with you. Just a little longer." I read them over and over, my breath catching in my throat. My world tilted. This wasn't just some fling. This was something deeper, something long-term. He was planning to leave me. And the worst part, he thought he was getting away with it. I don't know how long I sat there, gripping that tiny phone like it could physically hurt me. My mind raced through every scenario. Was I missing something? Was this a misunderstanding, or was I just a fool? I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to confront him empty-handed. I needed proof. Cold, undeniable proof. So I did something. I never thought I would. I became the detective of my own relationship. For the next week, I played my part. I kissed him goodnight, made small talk about his day, even laughed at his stupid jokes. But I watched. I tracked his late-night gym sessions, the way he hesitated before leaving the apartment, the way he checked his phone with that flicker of guilt behind his eyes. And then one night, when he was fast asleep, I took his burner phone and copied the number into mine. Then I waited. The next morning, at exactly 10 a.m., a text came through. "Did you tell her yet? Are we finally done lying?" Hands went ice cold. My chest tightened. This was real. I stared at the message, my pulse hammering, then slowly, carefully typed back. "No. Meet me today. Usual place." I had no idea where usual place was, but I figured I'd find out soon enough. Adam left for work, like nothing was wrong, kissing me on the cheek before heading out the door. I stood there, gripping my phone, knowing full well that my entire life was about to change. I grabbed my coat, took the bus 2 stops after his, and followed him. He walked into a little diner on the corner, and that's when I saw her, M.A. woman, with wavy brown hair, casually dressed, sitting in the booth like she belonged there. Like this wasn't the first time. Like she had done this 100 times before. My hands clenched into fists as I watched them. He reached for her hand. She let him. He smiled at her. She smiled back. And in that moment, I felt something inside me snap. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo, then another. I didn't even hesitate. My hands were steady. My heart, however, was a different story. I could have walked away. I could have waited until he got home, confronted him with quiet dignity. But screw dignity. I pushed, opened the diner door, and walked straight up to their table. Adam's eyes met mine, and for the first time in our 3 years together, I saw something I had never seen before. Pure, unfiltered horror. "Hey, babe," I said smoothly, sliding into the booth across from him. "Who's your friend?" Em looked between us, confused. Adam stammered something about work, about a misunderstanding, but I didn't let him finish. Instead, I reached into my pocket and placed the burner phone on the table. The color drained from his face. "You should really be more careful where you hide things," I said, flipping through the messages in front of her. Especially when you're planning on leaving me for someone else. M's confusion turned into something else. Rage. You said you were breaking up with her, she spat, standing up so fast the table shook. You said it was over. I watched as Adam tried to salvage the wreckage, his mouth opening and closing, his hands twitching like he wanted to reach for me, for her, for anything that could stop this from spiraling out of control. Too late. I leaned in, just enough so only he could hear. Pack your things before I get home, I whispered, or I'll send these photos to everyone you know. Then I stood up, turned on my heel, and walked out, leaving him to drown in the mess he made. Some secrets expose themselves. Others, you have to drag them into the light, and damn, did I enjoy watching him burn. The walk home felt surreal, like I was floating above my own body, watching my life unravel in real time. My fingers were still gripping my phone, my nails digging into my palm. I couldn't feel the cold, the wind, or even the weight of what I had just done. I had confronted him. I had caught him, and now the only question left was, would he actually leave before I got home? I wasn't sure what I wanted more. To walk in and find his things gone, or to find him there, waiting for me, trying to explain the inexcusable. Either way, he had already lost. When I finally pushed open the door to our apartment, my stomach clenched. He was still there. Adam stood in the middle of our tiny living room, a duffel bag at his feet, his hands on his hips like he was trying to steady himself. His laptop was open on the coffee table, and beside it, the second phone I had left behind. He looked up when I walked in, his face a mess of emotions. Guilt, anger, maybe even regret. But it was too late for regret. We both knew it. You went through my stuff, he said, his voice tight. I laughed, actually laughed. That's what you're going with? Not, I'm sorry, or I messed up? He exhaled sharply, raking a hand through his hair. I was going to tell you. I stepped forward, my fingers gripping the strap of my purse. Tell me what exactly? That you've been cheating on me? That you've been using a whole different phone to plan your little escape with her? What were you waiting for, Adam? Our anniversary? Christmas? His jaw tightened. It wasn't like that. Oh, really? I crossed my arms. Then what was it like? Silence. A muscle in his jaw twitched. His eyes flicked to his bag like he was weighing his options. I could almost see the gears turning in his head. Lies or truth? Her name is Madison, he finally muttered, like that was some kind of revelation. Like I hadn't already seen her, hadn't watched them together. I shook my head. I don't care what her name is, Adam. What I care about is how you could sit across from me every single day knowing you were lying. How you could hold me at night, tell me you loved me while texting her about your future. He winced, but didn't. Deny it. Good. How long? I demanded. How long have you been seeing her? His shoulders dropped, and he sighed. 8 months. The words hit me like a slap. 8 months. Almost a year. I had spent 3 years loving someone who had been sneaking around behind my back for nearly a third of our relationship. I didn't realize I was shaking until I had to steady myself against the counter. You're a coward, I whispered. He looked away. Did you love her? I asked, even though I wasn't sure I wanted to hear the answer. His throat bobbed. He hesitated, and that was answer enough. My stomach twisted, and I had to bite down hard on my cheek to keep myself from screaming. I had been so blind. I had ignored the signs because I had trusted him. I never wanted to hurt you, Adam said weakly. I laughed again, but this time it sounded hollow. You didn't just hurt me, you destroyed us. A heavy silence stretched between us. Then finally he grabbed his bag. I'll go. I watched as he walked toward the door, but just as he reached for the handle, something inside me snapped. You don't get to just leave like this, I spat. He froze. You don't get to walk out, with your dignity intact while I'm left picking up the pieces, I continued, stepping forward. So let me make something very clear, Adam. Whatever future you thought you were walking into, it won't be as clean as you think. He turned to face me, brow furrowed. What does that mean? I tilted my head. It means that I have proof, photos, texts, receipts. And if you think for 1 second that I won't use them if you try to spin this around on me, then you clearly don't know me as well as you thought you did. His face paled. You wouldn't try me. I had never seen Adam afraid of me before. It was oddly satisfying. After a long pause, he gave a slow nod. "I'll be gone by tonight." "Good," I said, voice steady. "And don't come back." With that, he opened the door, stepping out into the hallway. He hesitated for just a second, maybe waiting for me to stop him, to say something, anything, that would make this less final. I didn't. The door clicked shut behind him, and just like that, he was gone. I stood there, staring at the door, waiting for some sort of relief to wash over me, but all I felt was numb. That night, I curled up in bed alone, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was quieter than it had ever been, too big for just me. I should have felt free. I should have felt vindicated. But all I could think about was the 3 years I had wasted, the love I had given so freely, the future that had been nothing but a lie. Was I stupid? Was I not enough? I closed my eyes, willing sleep to come. And then my phone buzzed. I sat up, my pulse spiking. A text. From her. "Madison. You think you won? You have no idea who you're messing with." My blood ran cold. What the hell did that mean? My breath caught in my throat as I stared at the screen. Madison. The woman Adam had been sneaking around with for 8 months. The woman I had confronted in the diner, and now she was texting me. "You think you won? You have no idea who you're messing with." A chill ran down my spine. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. What did she mean by that? I wasn't scared, at least, that's what I told myself. I was angry, livid. But beneath the fury, something darker slithered its way into my gut. I had humiliated Adam, thrown his lies back in his face, and left Madison sitting there, exposed. I had taken control of the situation, so why did it feel like I was still playing their game? I clenched my jaw, my fingers tightening around my phone. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to spiral, to fight, to claw my way into some messy confrontation. That would only make things worse. I wasn't giving her that. I locked my phone and threw it onto the nightstand. Let her stew. She wasn't my problem anymore, or so I thought. The next morning I woke up to the sound of my doorbell ringing. I groaned, rubbing my eyes. Who the hell was knocking on my door at... I checked my phone, 6:45 a.m. A spike of unease coiled in my chest. Adam still had his keys, but I doubted he would come back. At least not this soon. And Madison? No, that would be insane, wouldn't it? The doorbell rang again. I hesitated, then pulled on a hoodie and crept. Toward the door, my heart hammering. Peeking through the peephole, my stomach twisted. A flower delivery. I frowned, unlocking the door just enough to see a young guy holding a bouquet of red roses, shifting awkwardly on the doormat. "You Emily?" he asked. I blinked. Yeah?" "Cool. These are for you." He thrust the bouquet forward. "Paid in advance." I hesitated before taking them, my fingers brushing against the crisp cellophane wrapping. There was a small white card tucked between the stems. I pulled it out, flipping it over. "You should have stayed out of it." My grip on the flowers tightened, my chest burned with anger, but more than that, fear. How did she know where I lived? Had Adam told her? Or had she been here before? The thought made my skin crawl. Everything. "Good?" the delivery guy asked, eyeing me warily. I swallowed hard and forced a smile. "Yeah, thanks." I closed the door and immediately tossed the flowers into the trash. The scent of roses filled the kitchen, suffocating, cloying. I didn't know what Madison thought she was doing, but if she expected me to cower, she was in for a rude awakening. I grabbed my phone, my fingers shaking, and dialed Adam. He picked, up on the third ring. "Emily?" I didn't give him a chance to say anything else. "Did you give Madison my address?" There was a pause. "What?" "Don't play dumb, Adam. She sent me flowers. She knows where I live." He exhaled sharply. "I never... Emily, I swear I never gave her your address. I don't know how she got it." I let out a bitter laugh. "So what? She's just psychic now?" "I don't know." He sounded genuinely distressed. "Look, I haven't talked to her since... yesterday. She texted me a few times, but I haven't responded. I think she's pissed, okay? But I didn't tell her anything." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Well, she's making it my problem now. Do you want me to talk to her? He asked, hesitant. I scoffed. Absolutely not. The last thing I need is you running to her defense. Just handle your own mess, Adam. I hung up before he could say anything else. For the next few days, I kept my guard up. I double-checked my locks. I took different routes home from work. I even considered changing my number, but that felt too dramatic. Maybe Madison was just trying to scare me. Maybe she'd get bored and move on. And then, on Friday night, I found something that made my blood turn to ice. I was heading home from work, my grocery bag in one hand, my phone in the other, scrolling mindlessly through social media. Until I saw it. A photo. Posted on a brand new Instagram account with no name, no profile picture. It was a picture of my apartment building, taken from across the street, with the caption, "Nice place. Would be a shame if something happened to it." The bag slipped from my hands, oranges rolling onto the pavement as my heart pounded against my ribs. She was watching me. She was here. My fingers fumbled to dial 911, my breath coming in sharp, ragged gasps. "Evan, what's your emergency?" I think someone is stalking me," I said, my voice shaking. "I need help." The dispatcher kept me on the line, her voice calm and steady, asking questions I could barely process. "Do you see anyone suspicious right now?" My eyes darted around the darkened street, my pulse hammering in my ears. The city noise buzzed in the background, car horns and muffled voices, but everything else felt eerily still, like the air had thickened around me, like someone was watching. I don't know," I stammered. "I just got home, and I found this post online. It's a picture of my apartment, from across the street. Are you alone?" I swallowed hard. Yes. The word felt dangerous. I was alone. Vulnerable. "Okay," she said. "I'm sending an officer to your location. Stay where you are, and if you see anyone suspicious, go into a public place immediately." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "Okay, thank you." As I hung up, I forced myself to take a slow, steady breath. Think, Emily. Was Madison really this crazy? Or was this just an elaborate bluff to rattle me? Either way, it was working. Bent down, quickly gathering the groceries I had dropped, my hands shaking as I shoved them back into the bag. Then I hurried inside, locking the door behind me, double locking it. The apartment felt colder than usual, the silence pressing in. On me, I checked every window, every lock. Then I checked the Instagram account again. The photo was gone, just deleted, like it had never existed. My stomach churned. Was she toying with me? I sat down on the couch, gripping my phone. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, adrenaline still coursing through me. I couldn't ignore this, so I did something I really didn't want to do. I called Adam. He picked up immediately. "Emily?" "Your girlfriend is insane," I snapped. There was a pause. Then, "What happened?" She posted a picture of my apartment, from outside, with a caption that sounded like a threat. And then she deleted it. Silence. "Adam," I pressed, "do you have any idea what she's trying to pull?" His voice was quiet. "I don't know, Em. I swear to God I didn't think she'd what?" I interrupted, my anger rising. "Didn't think she'd come unhinged? Did you really? Think you could just cheat on me, lie to both of us, and walk away clean?" He sighed heavily. "I knew she was upset, but I didn't think she'd take it this far." "Well, she has," I shot back. "And if she doesn't stop, I'm getting a restraining order." That seemed to shake him. "Do you really think it's that serious?" "Adam," I said slowly, gripping my phone tighter, "she found my address. She is watching me. What part of that doesn't scream dangerous to you?" More silence. Then finally, he muttered, "I'll talk to her." A bitter laugh bubbled up in my throat. "Oh, now you want to handle things? Newsflash, Adam. You aren't in control anymore." I hung up before he could respond. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. 2 officers, a man and a woman, stood in my small living room, asking questions I barely had answers to. "Have you had any prior altercations with this person?" the male officer asked, jotting something down in his notebook. "Just the one," I admitted. "I caught her with my boyfriend, or, well, ex-boyfriend. I confronted them. She got angry, but nothing violent. And now she's sending you flowers and posting threats online? The female officer clarified. I nodded, crossing my arms. Yes. And she deleted the post right after I saw it. The officers exchanged a glance. Unfortunately, the man said, since the post is gone, it's hard to prove it was ever there. Do you have a screenshot? Damn it. I had been too shaken to think about that. I shook my head. No, it all happened so fast. He frowned. Without concrete evidence, we can't take action on an online post. However, given the circumstances, you can file a restraining order if she makes further contact. The female officer leaned forward slightly. In the meantime, do you have anywhere else you can stay for a few days? Just until things settle down. I opened my mouth to say no, but then I hesitated. My best friend, Lena. She had been texting me nonstop since the breakup, offering to come over to let me crash at her place. I had brushed her off. But maybe I shouldn't have. Yeah, I said. Yeah, I do. Good, she nodded. Stay somewhere safe, and if you see anything else suspicious, call us immediately. I nodded, feeling a little lighter. I will. That night, I packed a bag and headed to Lena's apartment across town. When she opened the door, she didn't even ask. She just hugged me, and for the first time in days, I let myself breathe. Jesus, Em, she murmured, pulling me inside. You look like you've seen a ghost. Close, I muttered. More like a psychopath. She handed me a glass of wine, her expression serious. Start from the beginning. So I did. I told her everything. The second phone, the texts, the confrontation, the flowers, the picture. By the time I finished, she was pale. That's terrifying, she said. Do you really think she's dangerous? I exhaled. I don't know, but I don't want to find out the hard way. Lena's jaw tightened. Then we're not waiting for her next move. We're making the first one. I frowned. What does that mean? She grabbed her laptop, flipping it open. It means we're going to find out exactly who Madison is. If she wants to play games, we'll play smarter. I blinked. Lena, what? But she was already typing. And when she turned the screen toward me, my stomach dropped. Because staring back at me was a photo of Madison. But her last name wasn't what I expected. Madison Carter. And right beside her, an article. Local heiress tied to CEO's scandal. My blood went cold. Who the hell had Adam been messing with? I stared at the screen, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. Madison Carter. Not just some random woman Adam had cheated with, an heiress. Lena scrolled through the article, her fingers moving quickly across the trackpad. Says here her father is William Carter, big real estate mogul, worth millions. She's been in and out of tabloids for years, scandals, drama, some legal trouble, but nothing that ever stuck. My mouth was dry. Legal trouble? Lena clicked another link. Yep, disorderly conduct. A couple of restraining orders filed against her. One was from an ex-boyfriend, claimed she stalked him after they broke up. Trashed his car, sent threats, even showed up at his job. She looked up at me, her eyes dark with concern. Sound familiar? A chill ran down my spine. I had been thinking Madison was desperate, a scorned woman lashing out. But this was a pattern. My stomach twisted. Adam had no idea who he was dealing with, did he? Lena snorted. Clearly not. And now you're caught in the crossfire. I leaned back against the couch, running a hand through my hair. Great. Just great. Lena's voice softened. You need to take this seriously, Em. I am, I snapped, then immediately sighed. What do I even do? I already called the cops. She deleted the post, so I have nothing to prove she's threatening me. Yet, Lena said, clicking through more links. We just have to be smarter than her. I gave her a look. You sound way too excited about this, she shrugged. What can I say? I like a challenge. I exhaled, rubbing my temples. So what's the plan, Detective Lena? She grinned. Glad you asked, after 4. Next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Lena typing furiously on her laptop. Morning, sunshine, she called over her shoulder. I did some digging. I rubbed my eyes, still groggy. Digging on what? On Madison, and more importantly, on you. I frowned. Me? She turned the screen toward me. I found out how she got your address. My stomach flipped. How? Lena pointed to the screen. Your name is on your lease, obviously, but guess who else had access to that information? I leaned forward, scanning the page. My blood ran cold. Adam. His name was listed as the co-tenant. Of course, we had been living together for 3 years, which meant his personal information was tied to mine in more ways than I had even considered. Lena nodded at my expression. My guess? She found your address through him. Maybe he left something lying around. Maybe she snooped through his emails or documents. Either way, she didn't just find you. She looked for you. I swallowed hard. This just keeps getting worse. Lena tapped her fingers on the keyboard. It means she's been planning this. She didn't just lose her temper after you exposed them. She's been watching, waiting. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I had been trying to convince myself that Madison was just angry, that she would get over it. But now I wasn't so sure. I stared at Lena's laptop, my mind racing. So what do we do? She grinned. We set a trap. I blinked. Excuse me? Lena leaned in. She's waiting for you to react. That's why she's been subtle. Flowers, a creepy Instagram post, making sure she can scare you without giving you anything to prove it. So we flip it. I raised an eyebrow. And how exactly do we do that? She smirked. We bait her. That night, I did something that made my skin crawl. I texted Madison. You win. Let's talk. Lena had convinced me that the only way to get Madison to slip up was to make her overconfident, to let her think I was breaking. And sure enough, she responded almost. Instantly, glad you finally understand. Meet me at the Red Oak, 9 p.m., no games. I showed Lena the message. The Red Oak? That's some fancy rooftop bar. She grinned. Oh, she's flexing. Wants you to know she's richer, more powerful, in control. I exhaled. So what now? Lena's smirk widened. Now, we go to war. I arrived at the Red Oak at 8:58 p.m. The place was as pretentious as I expected. Dim lighting, overpriced cocktails, the kind of place where people pretended to enjoy jazz just because it sounded expensive. Madison was already there, sitting in a corner booth like she owned the place. She wore a sleek black dress, her makeup flawless, her wavy brown hair falling over her shoulders like something out of a magazine. She smiled when she saw me. But it wasn't friendly. It was a warning. Emily, she purred, gesturing for me to sit. I was wondering when you'd stop acting like a scared little girl and face me. I slid into the booth, my heartbeat steady. I figured it was time. She tilted her head, eyes flickering with amusement. Smart. You're out of your league here, you know. I leaned forward, mirroring her condescending smirk. Am I? She laughed softly. Oh, sweetheart, you don't get it, do you? She sipped, her drink, her eyes dark. I always get what I want. I tilted my head. And what is it you want exactly? Her smile widened. I want you to disappear. Chills shot down my spine. Madison leaned in, lowering her voice. You embarrassed me. You humiliated me. And now? I'm going to make sure you regret it. I exhaled slowly. I don't scare easy. Her lips curled. You should. Then she slid a small, folded piece of paper across the table. I hesitated before picking it up, unfolded it, and froze. It was a photo of me, taken from behind, walking home, at night. Recently, my blood turned to ice. She leaned back, smug. Still think this is a game? I clenched my jaw. My heart was racing, but I refused to let her see it. I looked up, meeting her gaze, and then slowly, I smiled. Then I guess it's time I start playing, too. I folded the photo in half, keeping my expression unreadable. My heart was pounding, but I wouldn't let her see it. Madison smirked, swirling her drink lazily. She thought she had won. She thought she had me cornered. But what she didn't know? I came prepared. I leaned forward, mirroring her confidence. You really went through all this trouble just for me? I'm flattered. Her eyes glinted with amusement. Oh, Emily, you don't get it. I don't do this for fun. I do it to make sure people like you understand where you stand. I raised an eyebrow. And where exactly is that? She set her drink down with a soft clink. Beneath me, I let out a soft laugh. You really are delusional. Her smirk didn't waver. You'll see soon enough. I exhaled, glancing around the bar, letting the weight of this moment settle. She was dangerous, calculated, ruthless. But she had one fatal flaw. She thought I was weak. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and placed it on the table between us. Her smirk faltered slightly. "What's that?" I tapped the screen. "A live recording." Her expression darkened. "You're bluffing." I shook my head. "Not at all. You see, I knew you'd try something tonight, and I knew you'd slip up. So while you were busy threatening me, everything you said was getting backed up in real time." I tilted the phone toward her so she could see. A private cloud upload running in the background. She went still. "You've been following me," I continued. "Stalking me, threatening me, and now?" I gestured to the phone. "You've just confessed to it, on record." Her fingers tightened around. Her glass. "You think this changes anything?" I leaned in. "I think it changes everything." For the first time, I saw something flicker behind her cold gaze. Uncertainty. "Here's how this plays out, Madison," I continued, my voice deadly calm. "You leave me the hell alone. No more threats, no more games. If I even think I see you watching me again, I send this to the police, your father, and every media outlet. In the city." Her jaw clenched. "You wouldn't." I smiled. "Try me." The tension stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then, slowly, Madison leaned back, her smirk slipping into something more measured. She studied me for a long moment, then exhaled, shaking her head. "Huh," she muttered. "You're not as pathetic as I thought." "Good to know," I said flatly. She downed the rest of her drink, setting the empty glass on the table. Then she stood, smoothing out her dress. "You got lucky," she murmured, her voice lower now, more controlled. I didn't respond. She took one last look at me before turning on her heel and walking away. I didn't breathe until she was gone. Lena was waiting for me outside, her car idling near the curb. The second I slid into the passenger seat, she was grilling me. "Well, how'd it go?" I let out a shaky breath. She backed off. Lena's eyes narrowed. "Just like that?" "Not exactly," I muttered, staring at my phone. "She knows I have proof now. I don't think she'll risk coming after me again." Lena drummed her fingers against the steering wheel. "You sure about that?" I exhaled. "Not entirely, but it's the best shot I had." She glanced at me, then nodded. "All right, let's get you home." 2 weeks passed, no texts, no flowers, nothing. It was eerie, like she had never existed. But I wasn't stupid. I knew she was out there, watching, waiting, but so was I. I changed my locks, set up security cameras, even filed an official police report with the recording as evidence, just in case. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was ready. Then, one night, I got a text. Not from Madison, from Adam. "She's gone, left the city, said she needed a fresh start." I stared at the message, a mix of relief and something else, something sharper, settling in my chest. Then another text came through. "I'm sorry for everything, Em. I really am." I read it twice, then locked my phone without responding. Sorry wouldn't fix what he did, but at least now I could finally breathe. I stood by my apartment window, looking out at the city, at the lights stretching for miles. For the first time in months, I felt free. Madison was gone. Adam was out of my life, and me, I had survived. And I'd be damned if I ever let anyone try to break me again. That's the end of today's story. Did things turn out the way you thought, or were there some surprises along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't joined the community yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always the first to catch new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.